In this episode, I speak with Kenyata. She talks to me about not being entirely sure if she wanted to even be a mother, but after trusting in herself and doing the personal work, Kenyata listened to her inner voice and followed where her heart wanted to lead her, Merida, Mexico. Kenyata left the United States and traveled solo at 5 months pregnant to find a new home for herself and her child. Kenyata had a sense of intuition that everything would work out in her favor, even if she was traveling alone for the first time out of country. Once she settled into her home in Mexico, Kenyata was able to focus and relax into this pregnancy, and then was able to start looking for a midwife to support her during her birth experience. She found a Melanated Women's group in her local area, got connected to a traditional midwife named Sumi, and was able to have a supported and easeful birth experience surrounded by people that trusted her to do what her body was designed for. Listen to this powerful story of a young woman choosing to tune into her intuition, trust herself, and travel out of the country that she was living in to find the place where her son wanted to be born. Hi, Kenyatta.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm super, super excited to hear your story and your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here as well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No worries. So I'm just going to get straight into it and ask you the first question, and that is, what is your ancestry and your lineage that you're passing on to your child?
Yeah, so just African American. I'm from the United States, Tennessee. So we're just small town, small town girl,
Mm,
um, Black American, yeah.
perfect.
So yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know by chance, like where, like, um, further into that line that your parents like were from?
Honestly, no, I
No.
don't. I mean, some of my grandma, they said we have some Cherokee. I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody says they have some type of Cherokee or something in them,
Mm-hmm.
but outside of that, no, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know honestly, but
Yeah.
I just know that we're black
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Wonderful.
where we're at right now with it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Okay, excellent. And then, so moving on to the next question, where does your motherhood journey begin?
Wow. Okay. So honestly, so I'm 26.
Mm-hmm.
This is my first child,
Mm-hmm.
and his name is Zen. But growing up, my mom had me whenever she was 16. So, I got to watch her grow up, and watching her grow up, I got to see just her struggles and just her challenges that she had and with just being a mother for me, and so that made me not want to be a mother. I actually didn't actually have plans on becoming a mother. It was somewhere really far. I was just like, if it happens it happens, but I didn't plan on it. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was very like nervous because I mean I'm 26. I was like, I'm too young. Like, I'm saying everything. I'm too young to have I'm too young to have a baby right now. I don't need kids. And what if this happens? And I'm thinking like my life is over, and all these things. And then also too the relationship that I had with the father. It wasn't as healthy as I wanted it to be. So um but then, I was honestly, if just to be honest and transparent with you, I had considered like I was thinking about getting an abortion, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I think Roe versus Wade had just passed in Tennessee or something like that, where or they made abortions legal or something like that. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
just like, yeah, yeah. So that was that. But then, so one night, I usually journal and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. If I wake up between the hours of like 3 and 4. Randomly, it just happens sometimes. But I was just journaling. Someone told me to get up and journal, so I was just journaling my thoughts and just like my anxieties around it. I had plans to like move to Mexico before I got pregnant and all this other stuff. And so I was just journaling. And while I was journaling, I realized like, okay, you know, this going through with this pregnancy, this is going to um, push me to actually be intentional with healing my childhood wounds from my mother
Mm-hmm.
and from my father. Um, I just knew. that like, before I got pregnant, I was in a dark space, in a really dark headspace. And I was numbing myself. I wasn't, I knew about, you know, childhood generations, or was it generational curses? That's what they call it.
Oh
I knew
yeah.
about generational curses. I knew about all of that stuff. But, when you're single, you don't have any kids, you can put off doing the work. You can, you
Mm-hmm.
know, go out every night and drink if you want to. While
Mm-hmm.
when you're pregnant, when you have kids, if you want to be responsible, if you want to not pass on a lot of stuff to your kids, you have to be more mindful and aware of what you're doing. So I was like, okay, I just had this epiphany, I guess, if you want to call it, just like this is going to push me to do better because I know I want a better, a better life for my child. I don't want to pass down the same things that my mother passed down to me,
Mm-hmm.
trauma, just, being neglectful and all that. So that's where it started for me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it started. That's when I was like, okay, I gotta tap into myself. I gotta deal with some things that I've been burying, before he gets here. Like I mean, you're always gonna be doing work, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's, I know that was a lot, but but yeah, that's where it started for me.
Wow.
So yeah, I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then do you want to get into that pregnancy journey that you were facing and what that was like for you as you were navigating all of these, curses and shadow and stuff that was coming up for you?
Yeah. So um, it was very honestly the entire pregnancy was very beautiful and very um easy, honestly. It was laid back. I didn't have any kind of, I didn't have any difficult, like, I didn't have a lot of nausea, no, issues with like having to go to the emergency room or anything like that. Um, as far as me carrying though, so I was going to try to make it work out with the father to
Mm-hmm.
try to, do the whole family under one roof thing,
Mm-hmm.
but things still got unhealthy between us. And so I was like, I don't have to limit myself, just because I'm pregnant, I still can do things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to, it was really me having to just like tell myself, like, my life doesn't stop here just because I
Mm-hmm.
have a baby. Like I can still heal, I can still go out and travel the world. So things wasn't, like I said, things wasn't going right between me and the father while I was pregnant. The first, I was like 4 or 5 months pregnant when I left the States. And September 1st, um, I left and came here to Merida,
Mm-hmm.
Yucatan, Mexico. And I was here. It was my first time traveling out of the country by myself. I put everything in storage and I was just like, we're just gonna find a way. I know. I just knew that I was gonna find something. I was gonna find my way out here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what I did. Like being in my pregnancy, I feel like I tapped into so many different, I don't know, what do you want to call it, like intuitive powers. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really tuned into myself because I was just like, I just knew that I wanted better for myself and I
Yeah.
wanted to be in a space where I could thrive and just
Mm-hmm.
focus on healing. And when I got here to Mexico, if I felt like, okay, now I'm out of survival mode. Now I can
Mm-hmm.
focus on being more present during this pregnancy, like my emotions, tending to my emotions, how I feel, being more mindful of what I'm eating,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the sun, like just simple stuff, but
Yeah.
important stuff, if that makes sense. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just, so yeah, I was out here. So I got in contact with a doctor, a holistic doctor. His name was Dr. Felix Molina.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady, it's a group of actually black women out here, and they had recommended him. And I knew I wanted to get a midwife. So I was just like, you know, do y'all know anybody? And they pointed me to this lady named Sumi. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but
Yes, I have. I
yes,
want to get her on the show because
yes.
yeah.
Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, so amazing, so amazing. But it's so crazy because when I made that move, because I was
Mm-hmm.
so scared to do it, but when I made the move,
Mm-hmm.
everything just started aligning for me so
Mm-hmm.
perfectly. So I got out here and I was we have a group. It's called Melanin Moms
Mm-hmm.
of Merida, And so I hit the ladies up in the group. I'm like, hey, I'm 6 months pregnant. I'm trying to, I just got here. I'm trying to find resources as far as a good doctor. I don't want to, I want to do a home birth.
Mm-hmm.
I just want somebody to check, make sure everything is good and all that. So they recommended me to Sumi. Actually, Sumi reached out. Yeah, they recommended me to Sumi, or I think she actually reached out to me and was like, "Hey, Kenyata, I'm a midwife. Just want to let you know." I was like, I've heard about you. Da da da.
Mm.
So we got into that conversation, and so I met up with the doctor, and I would just see him. I think I've seen him probably like 4 times just for him to like check and see how everything's going and looking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, and then I mean, everything as far as with, I just felt so present. I felt so like I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
It's me and you, like me and the baby. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's just me and you. I had also bought a journal when I first found out I was pregnant. I think I
Mm-hmm.
was like when I was like around 13 to 14 weeks, I bought a journal for him, and I would journal in it. I've been journaling in it ever since
Mm-hmm.
then, just to like, just
Mm-hmm.
keep that just to keep that, memory of like everything
Mm-hmm.
that's going on. So yeah, and so I knew I wanted to have a home birth, a water
So,
birth.
oh, sorry, can I just
Yeah, yeah.
interrupt? Before we go further, when you were still in the States in those first kind of 4 or 5 months of pregnancy, did you see anybody like an OB, or did you see midwives, medical midwives while you're there, or just kind of nothing until you got to Mexico?
So I went to around 8 weeks because I'm really in tune with my body, so I knew
Mm-hmm.
I was pregnant. I found I was
Mm-hmm.
pregnant like 8 days after my birthday, June 1st. So
Mm.
so I was like, so I went to go get it confirmed, like for them to confirm the pregnancy and
Right.
see how far along I was.
Mm-hmm.
And then while I was there in the States, back in Tennessee, I reached out to different midwives to, check with price ranges and see like, how much are y'all charging for,
Mm-hmm.
I want to have a home birth, how much are you charging for this and that?
Mm-hmm.
And this one of my friends, she had recommended this, I forgot their name, but she recommended this midwife and doula. I don't know if you want a birthing center, I guess if that's what you want to call it.
Mm.
She recommended them, and they charged. They wanted, I think it was like 4,000, four
Wow.
thousand for yeah 4,000. And I was just like, man. So I would, the father at the time, he was like, well, we can work it out. We'll figure something out. We can do it together, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay. And so that was the only time, actually. So to answer your question, the only time that I actually went to the doctor back in the States was that first um to like confirm that I was
Mm.
pregnant. And
Right. Okay.
I didn't see the doctor until another doctor, Dr. Felix, until I got here in Mexico.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I seen him, like I said, probably like 4 times. Because my first appointment with him was to get the sex of the baby, and that's when I was like, I think 21 weeks
Mm.
pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got the sex, and then he took some pictures, ultrasound pictures, and stuff like that. And then I waited to see him maybe like in December, October, or no, it was like November or December, is when I seen him again. And then
Okay.
maybe once after or
Mm.
before I was about to have him. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that was it. Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah, but I, I mean, I didn't, having carrying him, it just made me realize like I'm still in that like, girl, you got, I don't know if we can cuss on here because I was about to cuss.
Yeah, no, it's
I was like,
fine.
I was like, girl, like you got a lot of fucking power. Like I didn't
Mm.
like, I'm still tuning in and I'm still like I did that. Like I
Mm.
gave birth. I did this, but so January 26th was the day that I went into no, January 25th was the day that I started experiencing surges or contractions.
Mm.
Um, and before that time, I would meet up with, sorry, I'm like trying to piece the story together. So, whenever I moved out here, so when I said I had a lot of things aligning for me, I had um, some women come up to me and they volunteered to be a doula for free.
Mm.
They didn't want to charge. They was just like, I feel like I should be here and you're out here by yourself. Like, can I help you? And I was
Mm.
like, well, sure. So, towards like the end of my pregnancy, I had, Sumi and one of my doulas, Marcy. They, we'll meet up and we'll discuss like what to expect and,
Mm.
kind of go over my birthing plan and stuff like that. And I was like, birthing plan? I didn't, what is that? It was like late on in my pregnancy when I was like, okay, I guess we'll do a birthing plan. I just I didn't really plan anything. I just knew what I wanted. I knew that I wanted to have the baby.
Hmm.
I definitely didn't want to go to the hospital. I was like,
Yeah.
going to the hospital, that's a no-no.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't even think about the what ifs.
Hmm.
I was just like, I know what I want. That's what I want. And maybe some people will probably say that's not a good idea, but any kind of negative, like, I've had people, even when I would come talk to people and I would tell them, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing home birth. Oh, girl. You hear so many like negative
Hmm.
stories and negative, and I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
just people, they didn't have, a lot of education on it, or maybe that was just, you know,
Hmm.
them. But so yeah, we would meet up and we would just discuss like, my birthing plans, things I wanted to happen and take place during the birth. And at that time, when I first moved here, I just moved into my house in December.
Hmm.
Before then, I was staying in the Airbnb with this lady, staying in the Airbnb that this lady was renting out. And so we would meet up there. And so I still had a lot of stuff that I still needed to get taken care of. So I was like, I know I
Hmm.
don't want to have this baby in this Airbnb. It's a studio apartment. I don't want to have it here. So we got to get some stuff moving. Um, and so when the time came, I the birthing pool that I had rented out, it didn't show up.
Mm.
So my neighbors, they had went to the store and he was like, well, we'll get a kiddie pool and we'll blow that up. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. The thing is, so the 25th is when when I started having my first surges and
Hmm.
they felt like cramps. So I'm like, do I got to shit? Like, I don't know if I have to take a shit or if it's just
Yeah.
like, do I got to take a shit or is it just like, this ain't happening? No, this ain't
Mm.
happening. Because I wasn't expecting anything, but I was kind of like expecting something like,
Hmm.
from the videos that I watched, because I watched a whole bunch of like home birthing videos and I'm seeing
Hmm.
women, their water break. My water actually didn't break.
Okay.
So I just felt the cramps,
Hmm.
the contractions. And so, the contractions started like late, like around 8 p.m., 9 p.m. on the 25th, January 25th.
Hmm.
And so I was just like, okay, this is, whatever, this is cool. Maybe I just, maybe he's about to come, but maybe I don't know. But around 12 o'clock when I was trying to get ready to when I was trying to go to sleep, I the waves kept coming and they kept getting stronger. And they were actually, it wasn't too bad. It was just, it wasn't too bad during that time, but later on the next day, like that's when I started to pick up.
Hmm.
And the crazy thing is, I had an appointment already scheduled with Dr. Felix that
Hmm.
day on the 26th. So it just like everything was like aligning perfectly. And then later on that day, so after I went to my appointment with him, um, on the 26th, later on that day at 8:41, that's when I had him, and I had him in my shower, because they didn't have the pool ready. Like they had the pool blowed up, but they didn't have it ready or anything.
Hmm.
So I went upstairs and I was just sitting in the shower, letting the water hit my back. And honestly, the I can see why women would want to, if they're not doing like so during my I'm sorry if I'm like
That's
everywhere right now,
okay.
but because I'm just picturing everything as I'm talking.
Hmm.
But during the birth, so before I went into labor, we would practice hypnobirthing techniques, like
Okay.
mindfulness, just being mindful and
Mm.
just changing the language around birthing itself instead of
Hmm.
like contractions and surges,
Hmm.
instead of or waves, or I think that's what they would call it, but just practicing positive thinking around it.
Hmm.
And so by that time, whenever I was going into labor, I just I felt really calm and I was just focusing on breathing through each
Hmm.
contraction, each wave. Um, I knew. how I wanted it. You know, I actually wanted to have him down here in my living room where the pool was supposed to be set up, but like I said, they didn't have the pool. Like they were trying to fill the pool up with like clean water. They didn't want to use the sink water, so I was like, you know what? Let's just go upstairs. I need to get
Mm.
some type of water. So we went upstairs into my bathroom, and I had this chair. I still have the chair actually sitting in the in there in the shower. Because in Mexico they don't have a lot of they don't have bathtubs out here. I don't know why, but
Mhm.
it's mostly showers.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting in the shower and I'm like, okay. I was just like, these are just contractions. They're just coming. I don't think he's coming down anytime soon. Like
Mhm.
I'm sitting here thinking in my brain, I'm just like, it's too soon. Like he's not coming right now. It's all good. So, but then something was just like, I think you should like I felt the contraction come. I felt the contraction, but then something was like, maybe just try pushing just a little bit just to see what that feels like. And when I
Mhm.
pushed, I was like, oh, okay, like it's relieving. Like it doesn't hurt. Like it feels I'm like, okay. And so the father he had flew down. He was here. I think he got here on the 24th.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's how crazy. Like it's crazy. He got here on the 24th, and 2 days later, like I'm in labor. But
Yeah.
so he was here and he was in the shower with me while the doula. Apparently, I had a full house. It was oops. I don't know if you can see me. Oh
Yeah,
no,
you're still
can
there.
you see me good? Okay. Let me make sure I put this up. So apparently I had like 6 people in the house.
Mm.
It's a two-story house, so I didn't even know. I was so like tuned in, so focused, like just I didn't even know. I didn't even. It's like I felt like I was in this. I feel like I was just in this world. Just
Mhm.
I didn't even recognize anybody there. Honestly, that's how just tuned in I was with myself, in the process. But anyway, so we go upstairs and I'm sitting in this chair and I'm letting the water hit my stomach and I'm just breathing through each contraction. And, I feel like, okay, like I was thinking to myself, is it time to push? Like, I don't know. I was like, well, when the contraction, this is like just my internal like dialogue with myself. So the
Mhm.
next contraction comes and I'm like, okay, well, let me just try to push just a little bit, see what that feels like. I'm like, oh, okay, this feels good when I push. Like it doesn't hurt, like the contraction goes away kind of whenever I push. So I start pushing, and then I'm like, then I start seeing my midwife. She comes and I see her in the doorway, and she's like, "Well, Kenyata, do you feel like you need to push? Like, do you feel like he's coming down?" And I was like, "Well, no, not really." And so then the more the contractions come, like I'm still pushing, but not like straining or anything, just regular pushing. And then I was like, okay, something was like, let's take off your bottoms because
Mhm.
I got in the shower and I don't know why I did that, but I put on my bikini bottoms. I don't know why, but I put those on, and something was like, well, you need it. Let's take those off. So I took
Mhm.
it off, and I'm just sitting there pushing, and then I look over and I see my midwife. She's putting her gloves on, and the whole time I'm in the shower by myself.
Mhm.
She's not, touching, feeling. She didn't check to see if I was dilated or anything,
Mhm.
because she said that before when we had our little meetup, she was saying that basically she didn't want to do that because it can be discouraging for
Mhm.
mothers, like if they, oh, I'm not, dilated this centimeters or whatever. I'm not,
Mhm.
it gets discouraging. So
Mhm.
she didn't want to do that, and I didn't want to be touched either. So
Mhm.
it was like she understood. We had an understanding, but
Mhm.
so I'm in the shower and I'm like, okay, like as I'm pushing, I can feel him like kind of come down.
Mhm.
Like I'm feeling him coming down, and I see her like put her gloves on. I'm like, nah, he's not. I'm thinking to myself like, nah, he's not coming yet. And so I'm pushing. So now I'm actually starting to feel his head come down, and if I could describe it, it felt like it felt like a bowl, like
Mm.
a mini bowl was coming down. But it
Okay.
honestly though, pushing him out was the easiest.
Mhm.
It was more so like whenever I felt him coming down, and I was like, okay, this is, I can do this. But when he got to like, I guess what they call it, the ring of fire or whatever, when I felt
Mhm.
his head down there, I was like, oh wait, like oh shit, like his
He's
head has to
coming.
come out. Yeah, his head has to come out of this little tiny hole. So I'm just like, man, I'm like, so the midwife Sumi, she was like, I guess she could see my face, like see the oh shit, like he has to come out, he has to come out.
Hmm.
Cause I didn't even like I felt it. Like I I can't even describe it. Like it didn't even I don't even want to say it hurt. It was just
Hmm.
more so that, oh shit, he has to come out. Like,
Hmm.
how is his head gonna fit out of that tiny space?
Yeah.
Um, so, where was that? So yeah, so she sees my face and she sees that kind of like, oh crap. And she's like, Kenyatta, she's like, your body is stretching, it's doing what it's supposed to do. You're fine. And I was like, okay. I was like, you're right. I was like, okay. I was like, okay, okay, okay. So I'm feeling him stretching me out, and I feel
Hmm.
his head come through. His head, my vagina pop. And I was
Oh.
like, oh, I was like, and at this point, I'm on my knees. Like, I'm kind of like, I don't even know what you would call that position, but I'm just like kind of I have one leg up and I'm sitting down on my other leg, kind of
Oh
like,
yeah.
and I'm like
Hmm.
in that position,
Hmm.
squatting basically.
Hmm.
And so like I feel his head pop, and I'm like, okay. I was like, oh,
Hmm.
my vagina just did something, and then I felt the next contraction, and maybe like two pushes later, he was out.
Wow.
Crazy, crazy thing is everybody got before and after.
Mhm.
It was six people, and nobody got caught him like coming out, like
Oh,
coming
really?
out. Yeah, he came out so quick, like nobody caught him
Wow.
coming out. So, and I just remember like him coming out, and I was just like, oh my God, like I did it. Like
Hmm.
I did that. And I was just like, no, I was still, it was just like this moment of just this high. And
Hmm.
honestly, like just that whole thing, how everything went, I would do it all over again. Like I would do it over again with him. Like
Hmm.
I don't want. I'm good with my one,
Yeah.
but I would do it over and over and over and over again. Like it was super. Honestly, it was. It's not like what the media portrays it. Like
Hmm.
you see people in the hospital screaming and oh my God, But honestly, like the hypnobirthing, the doing the emotional work, the
Hmm.
journaling, just ridding myself of any kind of negative thoughts around it.
Hmm.
Even with my midwife would say like, okay, well, this can be this and this, or, she was telling me her experiences. So, I had a woman, she was basically, the baby was stuck in the canal for this amount of time, like just preparing me
Hmm.
for stuff. Like
Hmm.
I was just, any kind of negative thoughts, I was just focusing on
Hmm.
reaffirming myself that I can do
Right.
this.
Hmm.
My body knows what she's doing,
Hmm.
all of that. So
Right. That's
yeah.
beautiful. That's so
Thank you.
beautiful. And I
Thank
just want to
you.
clarify for anyone that's listening, because you mentioned your midwife, Sumi. And I just want to clarify that she is a traditional midwife. So
Mhm.
is she works outside of the system. So she's not
Yes.
licensed. So she doesn't have the rules and the regulations that, medical midwives have to follow, and which really hinders them to be able to support women properly. And
Right.
Sumi doesn't have any of that. So she is able to fully be there with women and fully be there
Yes.
for you. So
Yes.
yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody hears that and knows that that
Yes.
is the type of support that you got was from a
Yeah.
true traditional midwife who is there
Hmm.
for women and doesn't have to choose between keeping her license or, possibly sabotaging a birth because
Hmm.
it's, protocol or whatever it may be.
No, no, no. Yeah,
So,
she is amazing. Like
yeah, I've seen her work. It's beautiful.
so amazing. And the thing is, like, she wasn't like, now after having him, and I go and I watch other videos, and I'm just seeing like how, you know, and everybody's birthing experience is different, and
Hmm.
some women may want, somebody to come in and touch and check and all that.
Hmm.
But she's so respectful of that. Like she allowed me to just listen to myself and
Hmm.
just, she wasn't like intrusive or anything. So
Hmm.
it was perfect. It was amazing.
Oh,
Amazing.
wonderful. And
Yeah, yeah.
so what was like your immediate postpartum like then after baby emerged? What was that first, few minutes to the first couple of hours like for you?
Yeah. So, okay, so after so when he got here, um we rinsed off, and my bed went into my bedroom, and or I was already in the bedroom, but I went into my bed, sat on the bed, laid down, and my midwife Sumi, she checked. Hi. He's like, oh, what are you talking about me? Um, so she checked, was making sure everything was fine. I had actually tore. I
Hmm.
didn't even know I tore.
Hmm.
Apparently it was it second degree
Okay.
tear, almost to my butthole
Mm.
actually, and I didn't even know.
Hmm.
But he latched on perfectly. Okay. He latched on perfect. No issues. So since I had a second degree tear, Dr. Felix, him and Sumi, they work together like for connections and stuff like that out here. But so she called him and asked if he can come stitch me up. So he came here and just did the what do you call it?
The
Sutures, is that
sutures?
what? Yeah,
Sutures,
that's yes,
yeah.
yeah, sutures. I said sutures. Yeah.
Hmm.
So he helped with that, and um I had, like I said, I had six people here, so I had some people helping clean up,
Hmm.
cooking downstairs, and some help upstairs. But as far as the immediate postpartum, it went real smooth.
Hmm.
He latched perfectly. Um, the father had to, so I had him on the 26th. The father had to leave February 5th.
Okay.
So, that was once he left, I was here, and I had my neighbors and stuff like that. But postpartum was actually, it wasn't, I think, so right now where I'm, because I'm 3 months, he's 3 months now.
Hmm.
I would say the first month or so, I was just like real protective. Like,
Mm.
I had maybe a little bit of baby blues. Just, wishing like, oh, he's out now. Like, I wish I could put him back in to keep
Hmm.
him, just to protect him and keep him safe. But
Hmm.
also too, in that moment, like postpartum is teaching me, it's teaching me so much now. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm still in postpartum, but it's teaching me so much because, now I'm having to voice boundaries.
Yeah,
I'm having to
absolutely.
set boundaries. I think I went to, when I think my first little outing that I had, I got invited to a real intimate dinner, and
Hmm.
some of the ladies were like, "Oh, can I hold them?" I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. Just wash your hands. Just wash your hands, please, and that's fine." So they washed their hands, and I let this one lady hold him, and she kissed him, and she kissed him on
Oh.
his head, and I was just like,
Mm.
so,
Mm.
and it was just like, it was giving me so much anxiety because I'm like, okay, I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. But then I also had to tell myself too, like, Kenyata, this is your baby. Like, it's
Yeah,
okay for you to protect your baby. It's okay for you to speak up. He can't speak up for himself. Like, so
totally.
it's just like, that's where I'm at now. If I had to describe, how it's going for me, I don't really feel any. I mean, I have my moments where, like I said, in the beginning, me and the father's relationship, it wasn't as healthy. So that's why, I
Hmm.
chose to, leave.
Hmm.
I have my moments where, oh, I wish things could be, A, B, and C, but also at the same time, too, I'm happy I made the choice I made because
Hmm.
I know that if I would have stayed in America or stayed in the States, my birth experience would have
Hmm.
not been how it was here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So overall, and also having my neighbors to connect with, and they're very helpful, and I can
Hmm.
talk to them and just let them know how I feel. That helps as well too. And the father, he calls and he checks in, and he's very, active with him,
Hmm.
through FaceTime and stuff like that. But just now I've just been working on setting the boundaries, expressing
Hmm.
when I'm uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Um, working through like intrusive thoughts, as far as like when it comes to people and
Right. Yeah.
my baby. Working through that. Also just and taking time whenever he gets, whenever he's sleeping, just making sure that I'm taking time to take care of myself, even if it's just, having a mindful shower,
Hmm.
mindful brushing my teeth, just
Yeah.
little stuff like that. Checking in with myself, crying, allowing
Hmm.
myself to cry. Um, just little stuff, like I said, little
Hmm.
stuff that can become big things if you
Right.
don't deal with it. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
that's yeah, yeah.
Wow.
He's but he's super chill. As far as I mean, we co-sleep.
Hmm.
I love sleeping with him. He's really easy. He's obviously breastfed.
Hmm.
He's 3 months and he's been looking at my food. He's starting to teeth already. Like
Wow.
as far as working, I'm just now starting to oh, excuse you. Uh I'm just now I had so the state of Tennessee they give 3 months of maternity leave.
Okay.
So May 18th I will start back working full time with my job. That's
Okay.
not something I'm not really looking forward to doing.
Hmm.
I work remote, but just being able to spend time with him and just be here with him, like I love that. So
Yeah.
right now I'm trying to manifest. I was in the military
Okay.
for 6 years, so I have filed for VA disability.
Mm.
So I'm trying to manifest. I'm manifesting that, speaking that into existence, so that way I can just get the check and just be able to take care of my son. That's all I want to
Hmm.
do is just be present with him
Yeah, of
and
course.
spend every hour and day with him. So that's where we're
Hmm.
at right now. So
Hmm. Absolutely.
yeah,
Wow. And what
yeah.
did you do with your placenta?
So I had Dr. Felix, he had a contact and she basically encapsulates it basically,
Oh,
like
cool.
she
Hmm.
dehydrates it and puts it in capsules. So
Yep.
I had it. I'm still taking it. She gave me like 90 day supply worth.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I'm still taking that, and that definitely helps. That definitely
Hmm.
helps a whole lot actually.
Hmm.
So taking that, I keep that in the refrigerator. Take it every day in the
Hmm.
morning when I remember, or at night. I think I just took it not too long ago.
Uh-huh.
With that, and I still take prenatal vitamins too, just to kind
Mm.
of help with that, and herbal teas and stuff like that as
Mm.
well. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. Well, it's such a beautiful
Mhm.
story.
Thank
And
you.
it's so amazing that, for your first baby, like you said, if you were still in the States and you had your son, it most likely would have turned out to be a very different outcome
Hmm.
and a very different, or maybe not different, yeah, different outcome and very different experience that you had with your pregnancy and your
Yeah.
birth. And I just wanted to ask you, lastly, like, what was it then that made you decide that, because even though you're coming to Mexico, maybe you could have tried to get in with the medical midwives here. What was the choice and the choosing, if there was one, or you just kind of knew, like, I'm just going to have my baby either by myself or I'm going to seek to find uh, a very, kind of holistic traditional style midwife? Where did that choice come in, as being a first time mom who's also, quite young and maybe only knows of kind of medicalized birth in the hospital or that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, before I got pregnant, I was already I did a lot of traveling. I
Hmm.
did the whole like van life, SUV life
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
And so during those experiences, I got to also, I don't want to say have a spiritual awakening, but
Hmm.
I kind of like woke up to like a lot
Hmm.
of the stuff that was going on in the world with COVID,
Yeah.
with just the food,
Hmm.
supermarkets, all that, and also hospitals as well, and how much
Hmm.
faith we put into doctors. Like doctors are the next Jesus, you know what
Right.
I'm saying? So
Yeah.
when I started realizing how much we gave our power away to these people, I was just like, when I found out I was pregnant, it was like no doubt. Like I knew that I didn't want to go to the hospital because I knew with that it comes with, I didn't even like going to the hospital before I even got pregnant. So a
Hmm.
lot of the stuff, like if I was sick, um, I was curing that on myself, like, drinking
Hmm.
teas, taking
Hmm.
herbs, sea moss. So I had already kind of had a little bit of information prior to me getting pregnant, and that kind of helped influence making that decision on like, yeah, we're
Right.
not doing the doctor.
Hmm.
Um, I'll just do this at home. And then also too, yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
uh, so that played a huge a huge part of me just making the decision to
Mm-hmm.
do a home birth. I just knew every time every time a Black woman would
Mm-hmm.
speak about, their experiences, it came from mostly the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
traumatic experiences,
Yeah.
people, saying that, oh, we have to have a C-section. My friend, for example, her first child, they were saying, "Oh, we can't hear a heartbeat. We need to have a C-section." So they scheduled a C-section, and whenever she had a C-section, whenever her baby came out, she was like, the doctors was like, oh, she's just sleeping. She was just sleeping. And I'm like, so
Gosh.
imagine you get into the hospital, them
Mm-hmm.
scaring you, saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, we have to have a C-section because we can't, your baby's heartbeat is low or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. I don't know the terminology, but it's low and we need to
Yeah.
schedule this right here, right now to get
Mm-hmm.
cut open, have your baby cut out of you, only for the doctors to be like, oh, she was just sleeping."
Right, I know. And it happens so often. Like there's so many women walking around
And
having had unnecessary cesareans for
yeah,
the stupidest of reasons.
yeah.
It's
And
it's
it's
awful.
ridiculous. So I was just like, I just knew deep down that I wanted something safe. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
feel safe. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to not be filled with fear, anxiety. I
Yeah.
knew, like, that's just what I knew I wanted, and I knew that going to the hospital, it wasn't gonna. I would rather take my chances being at the
Yeah.
house, and I'm
Absolutely.
happy that I did that. I'm happy that I
Mm-hmm.
did it. My mom has C-sections with me and my little brother, so this was something, you
Mm-hmm.
know, motivating for her. I mean, we're not motivating because she can't have kids now, but she was just like, I wish I would have known this information. I wish I would have known that I could do this.
Mm,
But,
yeah.
sadly, that's just how it happens. Like, a lot of some women, I mean, thankfully now we're tuning more into it. So we're starting to see a little bit more home births. But,
Mm-hmm.
I hear a lot of Black women, they're really like, some of
Yeah.
them are scared to, they don't really trust themselves to do it. But
Yeah,
I'm so grateful
absolutely.
that you have your platform so that way you can share these stories
Mm-hmm.
and get it out there so that way women can realize the power that they have
Mm-hmm.
inside. So
Exactly. And that's the point of this is to have, Black women, Indigenous women seeing women that look like them birthing in this way. Because
mhm.
with, on social media and all of that stuff, it's so saturated. But a lot of the women birthing in this way that are being featured and that are having their stories told and shared, which is not a bad thing, but a lot of them are just white women. And it's not,
Mhm.
it's something to see that and to hear these stories. It's like, yes, that's great. Another woman had a beautiful, powerful birth experience,
Yeah, and
but
she's
it
alive.
yeah, she's alive, but it hits a lot different when it's someone that looks like you, someone that looks like me, to say, like,
Mhm.
wow, this woman did it. She didn't go to the hospital. She didn't, die because nobody wanted to listen to her just because of the color of her skin. Her baby wasn't,
Right.
taken away from her or abused
Mhm.
in some sort of way just because of this outwardly way. She chose
Yeah.
different because she
Yeah.
could. Like,
Yeah.
seeing that, being able to see you, seeing your story, hearing how beautiful it was, how you were supported by a beautiful team of midwives of
Mhm.
color and doulas of color in your
Yep.
community is just like, yes, it's possible and it's out
It
there and it
is.
really needs to be talked about and shared and
Mhm.
spread. So I'm so grateful that you shared your story and that you talked about, your support team as well. It just makes such a difference.
Thank
It
you.
really
Thank you
does.
so much. Thank you. He's over here
Hmm.
like, what are you talking? Who are you talking to? He's like just looking. But no, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean I'm so grateful that I went that way and like now I just if I could just help get the message out there any kind of way, like just
Hmm.
telling that's why I shared my experience on
Hmm.
my channel as well. Just to, like because when I was looking up YouTube videos, I felt like I had to well not I had to yeah, I had to literally type Black women home birth and you barely like I could barely see like
Hmm.
videos of that.
I've
Just
done
like
that
text
too.
message.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you
It's
see is like Black women.
hmm.
Yeah, that's all you see.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so it's got to
Yeah.
change. We need more.
Yeah.
celebration, amplification more out there because our
Yeah.
stories are important and they matter and they
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
be shared for the other women that are still kind of like looking for it, seeking this kind of
Hmm.
way, but not certain or sure that they can because they don't have that representation,
Yeah. Yeah.
really.
Most
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Most
Mm-hmm.
definitely. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to share about your pregnancy, birth, or postpartum journeys and experiences that you've had thus far?
Um, honestly, just nothing I can think of, but postpartum, like I said, in postpartum now, um, just recognizing if I could just throw out something early for I guess advice,
Mm-hmm.
just being honest about how you feel, like being honest about what it is that you're feeling and understanding too that it's normal and
Mm-hmm.
that, finding someone safe that you can express it to. And it's okay to take moments for yourself, but also like just to be honest about whatever it is that you're feeling, write it out. Even I'm in the house by myself, so I usually just talk out how I feel, and that's
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic itself. So
Mm-hmm.
just doing that and taking care, finding little ways to take care of myself, it helps a whole lot. So if
Wonderful.
I can encourage that, and just also women, like, you can do it. You can do that shit. You can give birth. You can, your body knows exactly what it's supposed to do. So I
Mm.
definitely I push the message forward.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for those words, Kenyatta. And if someone wanted to reach out to you to speak to you more specifically about your birth experience, about your life in Mexico, or just,
Yeah.
what you're going through now, how could they contact you?
Yes. So I'm always on Instagram. So
Mm-hmm.
my Instagram name is Dear Kenyata. So it's DEAR Kenyata KENYATA _
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And I on there I have also my YouTube is the same name as my Instagram, Dear Kenyata. So and it's
Wonderful.
usually the link for my YouTube is in my Instagram
Mm-hmm.
bio. So yeah.
Mm.
Instagram it is. Yeah.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, I'm sure there's going to be women that are seeking to find you. So now they've got that
Yes.
way. I'll put it in the show notes. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really do
Mm.
appreciate
Yeah, no
it.
worries. And thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you, sisters, so much for listening to this episode of the Free Birthing Color podcast. If you'd like to work with me one on one in a primal activation session, donate to the podcast, or to have your story featured here or in the blog, go to primalwomanportal.com for all the information to do so. Did you want to connect with our guest speaker? You can find all her information linked within the show notes. And if you have time, please subscribe, write a review, and tell a friend to have a listen so that this podcast and these stories of women birthing in their total power can be shared far and wide. Don't forget to check out the show notes for information on the Earth Daughters Women's Festival, the Breach Without Borders workshop, and much more. New episodes drop every Thursday morning, so stay tuned for the next amazing story to be shared on any platform that you prefer to listen to your podcasts on, or watch these episodes on the Free Birthing in Color YouTube page. And remember, your voice and your story matters. So if you're a woman of color or an Indigenous woman who's had a wild pregnancy and or birth outside of the medical system, submit your story because it's so important that your voice is heard and celebrated in your radical journey of pregnancy, birth, and motherhood.